We are going to go step by step through all 6 steps of Doctopus. If you have already gone through here and just need help with one specific step, just click on any of the 6 steps here on the screen, or if you're curious about what to do when Doctopus times out after step 6 has been started, just click on that link and you will go straight to those steps. Otherwise, get ready and we'll follow along and do it together. The first thing you need to do is create a spreadsheet, which we're going to do right here. Now we've already created this spreadsheet, but what you need in there is a first name, last name, and email address. Your registrar can do this for you. They can run an ad hoc that has everything set for you if you need to. So just get that information done. It's a lot easier than typing it in yourself. Once you have all of this information, and if you have multiple classes in the middle or high school, you're choosing to do period 1, 2, 3, 4, I would absolutely recommend that you split this up and do students period 1, then another one for period 2, because it takes a little while and it can definitely save you some time. So what we need to do now is get add-ons. And there's Doctopus right here, or you can search for Doctopus. But you want to install that add-on. We will accept. Okay. So now, step 1, choosing the roster. We're going to select the roster where Doctopus is going to make all of the folders and files from. In our case, we already have it created here on this Google spreadsheet. So we will need to build a new roster. Once you have this done the first time, you can just choose that roster over again so you don't have to do this step anymore. But the first time, obviously, we need to build a new roster. And because we already have it created on this sheet, we're going to use this sheet. And we will create the roster. So you see it made a new tab down here and moved everything over. So now I'm just going to copy and paste everything. Alright, everything is now in their new roster. All first names, last names, and email addresses. So I'm done with this. See how it says it recommends that we keep fewer than 40 students in a roster? That's why I would also recommend that we do that period 1, 2, 3, 4 and separate them out. Once you've finished, refresh your Doctopus, and then we can set the roster name. So their example is Language Arts period 1, Language Arts period 2. We're going to call this one the same thing as our title because this is a 4th grade class, so they do not have specific subjects that they need. 2014 students. Make sure you click Create Class Folders. You want this to create the folders for the students. Notice how it's going to make everything. So it's going to make a folder for you. It's going to make a teacher folder where all of your stuff will go as the teacher, a class edit, a class view, and all of your students. See how it made a folder for 2014 students for each of these student names. Create and share these folders. See on the left it's going through its work here, and you can see it working. So it's creating all of these folders here. So we'll give that some time and let it do its thing. Alright, we finished now. This was still spiraling here, so I refreshed it and just restarted Doctopus. But all of our folders are in there for each student now. Notice here it says if you need to add or remove any students, so we all know students come and go throughout the school year. Make sure you make changes in the sheet and then update here. So we'd want to go back to step 1, change the roster, and then refresh it, and any folders that we got rid of or any students that we added to the list would come here. Notice it has an exclude on the side here as well. So if we have any SSN students or students that we know will be moving that we're not ready to leave off this list, we can exclude them and we wouldn't have to worry about deleting them or giving them their own folder. Then we'll click Next. And you're on to step 3. Set the sharing arrangement. So here we're going to determine whatever template that you have that you want to share with these students, you want to choose the way it will be shared out with them. Individual, everyone gets the same thing. Individual and differentiated, so you can separate your high, low kids, kids who need additional assignments or different directions. If they're in their Kagan groups, and you want them to work all together on a group, or if they're in the entire class working on class rules or something like that, where they're all editing the same document, that would go here. I'd like to show you project groups and differentiated will both show the same thing. So if I made a group, let's skip that other part for the time being just to show you, it would give you groups here, and that way you could say these students are in group A, these students are in group B, these are in group C. Same way if you differentiated, you would say which students would get which assignment, and you can choose that here. But in our case, we're actually just doing an individual assignment. Everybody gets themselves. So let's change that back to individual. Everybody gets the same. Whole class access, you can choose whether you want everybody else in the class to view. Every other student in the class can't access it at all. If you want them to edit each other's and allow that, or comment. And we like comment because it allows them to other students to make suggestions as to what should be changed and edited, but it doesn't actually change the student's work. Once it gets commented on, the student can choose to accept or reject that suggestion. And the assigned student here, when we send this to the student, do you want them to just be able to view this document? That would be like if you made instructions or a rubric. You wouldn't want students to be able to edit that, you just want them to be able to view it. Do you want them to be able to comment on the rubric or the instructions, or would you like them to edit it? We're choosing edit because we're sending them simply a blank document. If you click editors cannot change sharing permissions, then they won't be able to share with anybody else themselves. You would have to do that for them. So because we have the different buddies and the peer writing mentors, we'd want to uncheck that. And we want it to deliver to student folders. That's already checked and we can't uncheck that. Adding co-teachers is a really neat feature, and that would be specific to the individual assignment. So if you have a math language arts combined project, you can add in the math or language arts teacher if you're one or the other. If you have a social studies and language arts project, I know in middle school a lot of people do the trial unit, you could add in the other teacher and then they would be co-owners to that document for the trial. You can also make a co-teacher somebody else in your grade level if you want to work with another teacher in that regard. So we're not going to add a co-teacher in this example, but certainly put their email addresses in if you would like to. If you have multiple people you want to share it with, separate it with a comma. Save and continue. Step 4. This is where you're going to choose where the assignment is located. The default is in your teacher folder, which would make sense because as the teacher, that would be where you'd house everything. But you can also change it to a different folder if you would like to. When I initially click on here, all I see is the spreadsheet that I just made, and that's the one we're looking at right now. So I don't have any templates created yet, so I need to go and create one. I go to my drive. There are my 2014 students. Here are my students. So see how we don't have to worry about students misspelling their name or not labeling their folder the correct way or the way that you want it? That's all taken care of now. It's created the folders for you. And here's that teacher folder, and see how that's not shared with anybody? Class View and Class Edit are both shared with the students. Teacher is not, it's all yours. So in here, we're going to create a new document. Fourth grade is about to start poetry for the next 3 weeks, so this will be the poetry templates. All I've done is given the students some directions, but when they get their document, it is going to simply be a blank document with these directions on the top. There's my poetry template inside of my teacher folder. So I go back here. Still doesn't show up, but that's because we went to step 4 before we had created it. So we're just going to go back to step 3 and return to step 4. And there's our poetry template. Save and continue. Step 5, File and Notification Settings. So we need to choose what assignment folder we would like this to be. Now here Doctopus created a folder for us, or gave us a suggestion, I guess I should say. 2014 students, 2014 students, 9, 12, 14. That's not actually what we want. This is our poetry template. And I'll keep the date in here for now, but you can choose to eliminate that if you would like to. I want to create a new folder called Poetry Template, so all of these poetry I'd like to create a new folder called, let's actually not call it Poetry Template, let's just call it Poetry Final Draft. So all of these essays, or all these poems, get written in the Poetry Final Draft folder. So I would like to create that new folder. And there we go. It's under the Teacher Poetry Final Draft September 12, 2014 folder. Now, how would you like your student files to be named? Their default is it will take the student's last name, comma, the student's first name, and 2014 students. Again, we would like this to be named something different. So we will call this Poetry Final Draft as well. We can do it with anything in the group, or we could do email, but this would be the way that I would do it every time. Last name, comma, first name. You can notify the document editors immediately upon sharing and resharing, and that will send an email to them, but the email will also go out once you've sent this to them that says, you've been shared on a document. So you really don't need to do this unless you're explaining to the students what it is. So I'm going to unclick or leave that unchecked for the time being and save and continue. Step 6, copy and share. All you do at this point is run copy and share, and it's going to make an individual file for each of those students and send it to them. What to do when Doctopus times out. So this happens a lot when you have big classes, and again, this is why we want to limit our class sizes. So we press OK. We need to actually close it down, go back, and just run step 6 one more time. And that's what you do if you get any kind of timeout issues. And we have finished. So you see, with 28 students, started at 1:25 and finished just after 2 o'clock. So it does take a little bit of time. You do need to be prepared for that. But you can run it and run other things in the foreground, have this running in the background. Press continue, and you are all set. All of those folders and all of those documents have been attached. Let's show you what that looks like. So let's choose a student. And there is their poetry final draft. And we click it. It's got the name that we wanted it to be named, and there are the directions right there that we created in the first place. So students can now edit and make suggestions for each other's essays. Finally, it does give us an option here to attach a Goobric. I'm going to do that in the next video so you can see what that looks like once a Goobric is installed. It's simply a Google rubric. So you can attach a rubric to each of these files, grade them on that rubric, and give individual comments. It attaches that rubric to the document and also will send the student an email letting them know what their rubric score was. So it's a pretty cool feature and a nice add-on as well.